Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our June Burnsville business briefing. We're glad you're spending part of your Friday morning with us. These monthly briefings are designed to keep our members informed about what's happening in our schools, city government, and the business community at the state capitol. Today's program will feature our annual legislative wrap-up, which should provide some valuable insight into what's happening. And let's begin with a quick look at today's agenda. We're going to start with an update from the city of Burnsville. We'll do some quick chamber updates. We'll go into our legislative wrap-up with our legislators and an update from the Minnesota Chamber. We'll start with Dan Keeley from the city of Burnsville. Dan, you want to take it away?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Great to be here. Summer is finally here. Isn't that nice? I'm going to run through some of the highlights of what's going on in the city in the last few weeks since our last update. A big one for us, a 2.75 million state bonding support. Thanks to folks like Liz Ryer and other legislative representatives for the city of Burnsville, we received that state bonding support for our water treatment plant improvements. And appreciate the extra help. We are going to obviously match that equal funding to pay for the whole thing, but sure is nice to get a little help from the state. There was a lot of challenges to local control in this legislative session. We were able to preserve what we do have today as local control, and we appreciate that. It's important for cities to be able to manage and obviously make decisions for their own cities. At the same time, we work as a collective in the MPA, the municipal area, right? The Twin Cities on a lot of different things. So it's a balance, but local control is obviously very important. And then we also were able to maintain the host community grant funding. That is a special legislation for cities who host a landfill. As you can imagine, that entire waste management landfill could be like a huge riverfront development, but it never will be because 50 years ago it was started to become a landfill, or maybe it's 70 years ago. So we lose as a city a lot of property tax benefit because it's a landfill and not fully developed. And so we get a little help each year from that bill, and I believe it's around $430,000, and we put it into our economic development where we put it to use. Assessments came out, so everyone is seeing what their property is worth. We have some people writing to us saying, hey, my property taxes went up 15%, 20%. We passed a levy at the city based on a dollar amount that equates to a 7% on average across the entire system. But there are other factors in that, the value of the apartment properties, the value of the commercial industrial properties, and the value of all of the residential properties. So there's three segments of the property tax, and each one of those tends to go up and down each year. So it impacts any given property. And then, of course, neighborhood, people putting a lot of money into their house, investing in their house can elevate the value of a comparable. So a lot of factors, but our story at the city is we're just levying a specific dollar amount, and it's 7.3% or whatever it was. Touch base on upcoming conference, the League of Minnesota Cities, which we are a member of. Almost every city in the state of Minnesota is a member of for various reasons. One of the biggest reasons is their insurance pool, which is fantastic. But they have an annual meeting that's coming up on June 24th through 26th in Rochester, and several of us are attending. There's a part of the big, beautiful bill had a strategic opportunity zone prioritization. We have 2 census tracts within Burnsville based on average household income, property values in the area that qualify as an opportunity zone, with one being a significant priority. It's census tract, if you want to look it up, 607.10. That is a staff and city priority to work with the county in submitting the documentation to be able to get some special funding to help redevelop that. It happens to fall in an area at Burnsville that we want to put some time into. Dakota County CDA is involved in this, and they're planning on a discussion scheduled for June 23rd. So we have a deadline to get things to them fairly quickly. Um, the commissioners, we just went through a process of interviewing new commissioners. We reappointed all of the existing commissioners who reapplied, and that left a few open seats. I think it was two on economic development and one on parks. And we did that this past Tuesday night. And we're happy to, every year we get enough applicants that we have to meet two times to go through all the interviews. It is just really um, heartwarming when you sit in my chair and see the level of involvement and desire to be involved every single year when we do those commission interviews. And we always encourage anyone interested in any of the various areas, economic development, planning, parks and natural resources, to be involved. And aside from that, we are working on creating a new arts commission, and it's under development. It's going to take a while. There's a lot of great work being done to cultivate, bring everybody that's involved in arts together to be able to build a new effective and meaningful arts commission in the city of Burnsville. Covers a lot of different things. And then we're talking about our legacy event support this coming Tuesday. And currently, the city provides all the public safety and public works for our legacy event that we have today, legacy events. These are identified as very large scale, meaningful, impactful, and also they've been around a long time. There was four of them. Burnsville Festival and Fire Muster is one, by far the largest by a factor of five or more. But then we have the International Festival, and then we did have the Art and All That Jazz, but that ended in 2024. And then the Heart of the City race, which was on for I think 16 years, ended in 2024 as well. So we have now two legacy events that the city supports. And the question at hand for Tuesday night's meeting, our work session, is a request from the Festival and Fire Muster to have the city cover additional security costs that are triggered by our municipal safety and unfortunate gun violence that is happening all over the Twin Cities. This is not unique to Burnsville. It is a nationwide problem, but it is affecting a lot of different communities in the Twin Cities. There's a lot going on with America 250. In case you hadn't heard, America's turning 250 years old this year, and so there are celebrations and recognitions going on all over the country. There's a lot of things that we're trying to do in the city of Burnsville leading up to July 4th. You'll notice some flags on the light poles on Nicollet Avenue. Because the Burnsville Festival and Fire Muster is the city's largest annual festival gathering, and it happens the weekend after Labor Day in September, we will have a big celebration of America 250 in the city of Burnsville in September. So there are all kinds of incredible festivals and recognitions and America 250 parties going on in DC, of course. Philadelphia has maybe one of the most impressive that's going on, and they're pulling in hundreds of thousands of people from all over the country to come enjoy what they are putting on. Obviously, um, lots of things going. That lots of our roots come out of Philadelphia. Um, there's a big redevelopment with Costco that they're going to move their gas station to the old Fire Station 2. Sorry, Fire Station 1 location next to Kohl's, just to the east of the existing Costco. And that's moving along. We sold them the property. They're going to build their new gas station over there, and they'll remove the existing gas station, and that will be more parking. For all of you avid Costco shoppers, when it's very busy and you have to park way far away from the door, the employees will park where the gas station currently is, and that'll allow for a little bit more parking closer to the door for guests. We've been doing a lot of code review and Title 10 updates reflecting new residential districts is coming up, and we actually just processed part of that on our June 2nd agenda. And there are a lot of active applicants for redevelopment. We have Burnhamwood Townhomes is doing an $850,000 remodel and update. Tri-State Bobcat spending $1.5 million, and there are several more. We have a new Scooters Coffee coming up on the west side of town next to Zupa's. We have another coffee place on Burnsville Parkway, just on the west side of Burnsville Parkway, and I'm sorry, west side of I-35. That's under construction that should be opening. So there's a lot of redevelopment, a lot of investment interest in the city of Burnsville. There is investment interest in the mall. However, most of that is the new Asian store and a food hall. However, that project has taken a while. It's moving a lot slower than we would prefer, and I'm sure the owners would prefer, but they're getting there. And then because of the new exit ramp on I-35 um, for eastbound traffic and the new roundabout on the east side of the mall, Swervo, who purchased the empty Sears building and property, has been working with the city. We don't have a formal application. It's all just discussion, but there are a couple different proposals for that. One of them is demolish and put up a building that's separated from the mall. I think that one's going to be one of the most significant redevelopments on the mall property, which would spark some additional redevelopment and interest from other investors. So very excited about that coming into play. Swervo is the person or the guy and the developer behind the new Shakopee Amphitheater. And that project is done and concerts are going on. So he can focus his attention now on his Burnsville empty Sears building, which we would love to see redeveloped, right? So that's about it. I think I covered all the big highlights. We have a lot going on in the city all the time, but hopefully that update was meaningful to you in this call. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Great updates. A lot going on. Um, and we will take a look at some chamber updates here real quick. We're going to start with our networking events that always help our members stay connected. Coming up on June 10th, we have an AM coffee break at Hafferman Water. And then on Tuesday, June 16th, our Out to Lunch program is at Mi Causa, authentic Peruvian restaurant here that's just delightful operation that I hope people will join us for. After that, we'll have some other events over the summer, but the next big event is our Fall Fling, our Sporting Clay Challenge. It's out at Minnesota Horse and Hunt Club. It's just a ton of fun. It's designed more for fun than it is for, avid shooters. So people come out and shoot for the first time, or we offer some little prep for people. So put that on your calendar for September 22nd. And then, of course, please mark your calendar for Thursday, December 10th, which is our big holiday celebration, Burnsville Mingle and Jingle at Buck Hill Event Center. With that, of course, the road work continues, not quite as painful as last summer, but there's still a lot going on 35W, as you can see with the huge pavement and concrete overhaul through Burnsville, and the bridge repair and replacement at Highway 13 and Cliff Road. Updates of guardrails, improved drainage, and there's a QR code here if you want to keep up on the project page. On that page, you can sign up to receive updates if you want to know what's going on. We talked recently about the fact that they will be starting next summer's project this fall, so stay tuned for a few things around the Nicollet and 13 area as they prep that project and get ready for another summer of road construction. So with those local updates, we want to transition to the Capitol and our legislative session that ended, recovering from that now. Our representatives for Burnsville include Representative Liz Ryer, District 52A, Representative Jess Hansen, District 55A, and Representative Caleb Berg, District 55B. Our senators are Lindsay Port from District 55 and Senator Jim Carlson of District 52. So we have great representation at the Capitol. And with us today is Representative Liz Ryer. I'm going to stop sharing so that Liz can chat with you and share her updates from the Capitol and how this session went. Again, feel free to pop questions in the chat or ask her questions. Otherwise, we'll have some follow-up dialogue at the end of the program. Thanks. Liz?
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm just so happy to look out my window and see green and blue sky and welcome summer here. Um, it has been a couple of weeks now since session ended, and I think it's good to have had a couple of weeks to just reflect and get grounded again in what we were able to accomplish and how the session went. Um, I think we all entered with the feeling like with the tie going into the second year and with no constitutional requirement in the second year of a biennium to pass a budget, to pass policy, to pass a bonding bill, that uh, people were just kind of holding our breaths to see how it would go. And in fact, it was a more productive session, I think, than many of us thought it might be. And I'm really happy about that. Some good work got done. Some things that were important didn't get done. And I think that's the nature of such a closely divided legislature. Um, The top, we got a few things that I think were really important. And Dan, you touched on one. We passed a bonding bill, a $1.2 billion bonding bill. Uh, Burnsville, because we are so united as a delegation in saying what our priorities are, we were able to get the funding for the water treatment center. We've toured that a couple of times. There's no mistaking the need. I'm really happy that we could get some funding across the finish line for that. And I think that when you have the House delegation, all three of us saying this is a priority, both senators saying this is a priority, that's how we get things done. So I think encouraging that unity in the delegation. I want to say too, that is not a partisan thing. We had a similar situation in the Dakota County more broadly, and that is a very bipartisan group. And we were able to, like, Representative Kosnick and I were on the same page for some other priorities, more county-wide. And I think that's a place where in the bonding program where we can come together and say what's in the interest of the communities. Um, I heard from the bonding people that they were biting their nails 5 or 6 times during that last week, thinking it wasn't going to happen. I've been on that committee for 6 years now. I have been vice chair of it in 23 and 24, so I know exactly what they're talking about. Long hours, grueling work. So thank your bonding champions when you see them. Another thing that I think was really essential was making sure that Hennepin County Medical Center didn't go under. Uh, we all rely on it statewide. That's where people get flown after serious trauma, after burns, after medical emergencies that require the most advanced treatment. It's also a place that takes the pressure off our other metro hospitals for serious concerns. And because about a 40% of their clientele, if you will, are from outside Hennepin County. It is a regional statewide asset. So it was important, again, another bipartisan situation. Representatives from across the state were so worried that they were going to lose that asset for their communities. And so it was really important that we got that done. I think there had been a lot of talk about using the ballpark tax. That didn't happen. It didn't get become a tax question. And I think That's fine. We have a good long-term plan for at least 5 years. And with a important step of not saying, well, okay, here are the funds you need. Good luck. With a really important step of saying, we need to have a professional level board of directors there who understand finance, who understand operations, who can provide a stronger level of guidance to the operations and the management of the care system. So guardrails and some work collectively to say, how do we make this better? Um, on the side where I was disappointed on the healthcare side is that you may be familiar with the 340B program. It's a pharmacy program that helps critical access and federally qualified health plans, smaller hospitals, community hospitals, as well as other nonprofit hospitals um, with funding. And I won't go into the details of how it operates, but right now, pharmaceutical companies are not necessarily following the law in terms of what is required. We tried to put in consequences, hold them accountable, and we couldn't get that through. Uh, the rural hospitals in particular are very, very worried because they had identified that as their top priority. I was at the press conference with several of the hospitals and a bipartisan group of bill sponsors, but we still couldn't get it through. That's where you start to see the power of the lobbying community and big pharma. So that was disappointing for the stability of the healthcare system, where we're losing hospitals every month, every year in rural Minnesota. And we're losing, if the hospitals stay open, they aren't delivering babies anymore. They're cutting their resources. Monoman Hospital now is basically just an emergency room that's happening all over the state. And while I represent Eagan and Burnsville, uh, I don't believe we are well off if our state isn't strong as a whole. So that's how I think about the work. Um, I was very disappointed that we couldn't get any common sense gun control after the assassinations and enunciation. There's no point in saying any more about that right now because there's nothing to be done about it until we get back next session. But I think that was a real miss on our part and a loss of trust in the community. Let's see. One of my areas of interest, stepping back a little bit, is I'm also very involved in healthcare. I worked at Blue Cross for 12 years. I've worked in the consulting business with United Health Group, Aetna, Cigna, the Blues nationally. Um, and so understanding that we need stability in pools when you have small companies, small organizations, each buying their own health insurance. It's really unstable because one or two people get sick and the rates get jacked, and it's pretty ugly. And that's the situation with our public schools. And so I have a bill that we passed to gather information from all the districts in the state on who are they covering, what are they paying, what is, and really get granular about the landscape for school health insurance, and then use that to design a program that holds the school districts harmless and sets up a statewide pool for school districts like the state employee health plan. So it was a very small bill this year. We'll have a lot more information next year, and I'm going to want to talk about it because it's one of my favorite things. Um, so all in all, the session itself could have been a lot worse. How about that? And I'm taking that as a win. I'm cheerful because instead of going to state conventions, I went hiking. And so I was out in the woods for a weekend, and I think that was better than being in either Rochester or Duluth. Um, For myself, I've been in the House for 3 terms now, 6 years, and Senator Jim Carlson is retiring after this session. And so I am running for the state Senate seat that Jim Carlson holds. So hoping to be representing and visiting with you next biennium in my new role. So that's about what I've got today.
Liz, thank you for the updates. And it's interesting, as you said, I think there was, well, first of all, there's one line that says nobody's safe while the legislature's in session. So there is a little bit of peace now that the session is over, right? Regardless of the outcomes.
Mhm.
Um, and I think we all should have gone hiking like you did right afterwards. But um, the ties in the tie that happened, and I think there's some of us on the sidelines that felt like, that's the kind of cooperation we actually want to happen. Is you said it was maybe a little more productive um, than maybe expected,
Mhm.
and it was good to see some things get done, and I think hopefully it'll set us up for the future. I am going
I
to
just have to jump in there real quick
please.
because I think so my first term, it was COVID time. It was very strange, of course, but we had a Democratic majority in the House and a Republican majority in the Senate. So essentially a tie. Um, I passed 14 pieces of provisions into law
Mhm.
with with that. I think there's a lot of drama that happens. There's a lot of fireworks that happen. People like the political theater. There's always a lot of work that gets done between the parties. And I think it's important to debunk we can't get along, we don't do anything together unless we're forced to, because that's just not how it is.
Maybe we just need to work harder to highlight that, right? Like
Hmm.
you said, it's the fireworks that make the news.
Yep.
And so we're happy to help get out the stories of the bipartisan work because that's where the best policy comes from.
Hmm.
Excellent. Um, you mentioned your run, so I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint here and talk about our legislators. Um, And let's see. So, talking about the folks that represent Burnsville. So, as Liz mentioned, she is running for Jim Carlson's District 52 seat, which opens up her seat. So, there will be two people running for that. I think there'll be a primary in that, Liz. Is that correct? No, there's not a primary in yours. Okay. So, we've got our two candidates for that seat. Um, Jess Hansen is running again, and she has someone running against her. Kayla Berg, as we know it from District 55B, is running for the congressional seat, CD2. And so her seat is a hotly contested. There's a few folks up for that. Lindsay Port is running for her seat again. So that's kind of the makeup of the elections. We'll talk more as those come about and what we do here in Burnsville. So with that, I'm going to move forward into a little um, update from the Minnesota Chamber. And this is just a sort of an overview of their statewide policy tour, but it's told from our perspective here in Burnsville. And so just to frame it for those of you that participate in these calls regularly, and remember when Jennifer Byers was here a couple months ago talking about the economic imperative. So this was the underlying driver for what the Federation and what the Minnesota Chamber is working on now. I won't go into detail because we have a whole other recording on this. But the Chamber Federation is a partnership of local chambers around the state of Minnesota that come together on some core policies. And so this year, the core policy areas were tax policy, workplace management, environmental regulations, and commerce, i.e., the cost of doing business. We'll have an update here today on some healthcare topics. Those were not Federation focus areas, but there's some updates in that area. So with that, in the taxes area, the results of this session, no new taxes. The mixed news, the pass-through entity tax was extended by 2 years through 2027. We were advocating for a permanent um, uh, establishment of that, but at least we've got a couple more years to work on it. There's the federal conformity is always trying to conform with the federal government. It makes tax filing very complicated for our people and our businesses in Minnesota when we don't conform, but there's a cost to that. So what did happen was conformity on Section 179, bonus depreciation, business interest limit, and R&E expensive for pass-through entities. We did not get R&E expensing for C Corps this go around. So those were the tax outcomes. Workplace management, no new workplace management mandates. The accommodation protections process under the HRA was codified. This has to do with employers being required. Historically, it's been on the employee to push a process for ADA accommodations. And now it's putting some of that onus on employers, saying that employers have to, in good faith, participate in a process. It's not dictating the outcome, but it's saying that employers have to show that they're at the table in a conversation with an employee who needs accommodations and will be held accountable if they don't. No paid family leave modifications. There were quite a few recommended, but they're going as is since this is the first year of the program to see how that goes this year. Environment, the PFAS reporting, they exempted products manufactured prior to 2023, and no new environmental mandates, including a number that were proposed. In commerce, a lot of AI discussion this session. No broad AI regulation or frameworks, but some limited ones based on some bans on certain uses of AI. Two proposed bans on non-disclosure agreements failed, one specifically about data centers and one that's more of an industry-wide ban between local units of government. And then they authorized funding for a study on nuclear energy to try to balance out our energy. So no action, but a study that will go on. Nothing new on autonomous vehicles for here in Minnesota. Healthcare, no new healthcare mandates and no tax increase on the healthcare sector, but also no extension of the reinsurance program, which has helped sustain our health insurance in Minnesota. Issues expected to return. So that's kind of a summary from the business perspective of what happened or didn't happen in the legislature, but there was a lot of things talked about, and there's a bunch of them that we expect to come back. So just sort of an overview of those issues. In taxes, there's a pretty robust conversation about an annual wealth tax. There's also a conversation about a fifth tier income tax. Net investment income tax, expanding it to businesses, social media tax, a digital advertising tax, and a CEO pay ratio tax. So nothing happened on those this session, but just stay tuned because we expect them to be discussed again. Workplace management, a big area. There's significant conversation about actually enhancing existing mandates, meaning additional paid leave and payroll taxes, meaning removing the cap on the payroll taxes for paid leave and allowing striking workers, so for workers that go on strike through a union, to collect unemployment insurance, mandated wage and benefit increases, and scheduling conversations, regulations on recruiting tools, i.e. employer repayment agreements, operational mandates. A big one this year was a seating requirement, mandating that all employees are able to be seated. State-specific regulation of AI in employment settings, meaning a ban on use of automated systems and electronic tools related to hiring, bargaining tactics, etc. Worker opportunity benefits for UI for unauthorized workers. Further reclassification of independent contractors, establishing a labor standards board for sectoral bargaining, more pay transparency and equity. We already have some of those regulations now, but managing more closely how jobs are posted, and the Human Rights Act updates regarding notice, discrimination, disparate impact, etc. In the environment, looking at a retroactive tax on fossil fuel called a climate change superfund, mandated levels of environmental review for pretty much everything, further restrictions on PFAS, drinking water standard and new liability for manufacturers, a bottle tax, strict restrictions on industrial water use, producer responsibility, and chemical bans, and reporting requirements. And then for commerce, back to the AI topic, looking at everything from restricting how AI is used in grocery pricing, dynamic pricing, wage setting, healthcare, prior authorization, and tons of areas. Very complicated area, but lots of conversations. Data privacy and consumer data restrictions and data center regulations. We expect all of these issues to come up again. We welcome your feedback on these things as we're discussing them, so we know, how to talk about them and how to advocate for businesses as these conversations move forward. Healthcare, as I said, bonus area. Continuing conversations, as there have been for a long time, about a public option and healthcare insurance mandates, sunsetting of the reinsurance program as opposed to continuing it, more AI in the healthcare sector, prescription drugs and benefit management regulation, and restrictions on prior authorization. So with that, that was a lot, but that's basically the down and dirty of what happened and what we expect to continue. It's really helpful between sessions, like I said, to get your feedback on any of these issues that matter to you. So please reach out and let me know what you're thinking. The election preview, as I mentioned, we went over what our local state legislators look like, but keep in mind all 201 legislative seats are up. Our current Minnesota Senate breakdown is 34 DFL, 33 Republican, Minnesota House tied at 67 to 67. We're seeing an increasing number of DSA party legislators and candidates. That's the Democratic Socialist Agenda, as well as various other sort of splinter parties. All of our constitutional offices are up. All of our congressional seats are up, and one of our U.S. Senate seats are up. So it's going to be a really active time. And what can you do? Connect with your legislators and candidates now. This is a great time, well in advance of elections, to be talking to them, to find out where they stand on things, to share your perspectives. Make it personal. Tell your story. What's your experience been in your business or in your job or in your life related to these issues? Vote like the economy depends on it. We know that the economy is number one for everybody. It might look a little different or mean something different, but again, share your story and what it means to you. Support business-friendly candidates. We find that business-friendly candidates are understanding of how businesses help our economy and grow, and how they provide jobs and how they provide stability. And so it's really important to have candidates that are open to conversations, like our friend Liz Ryer that's here with us today, and many of our other legislators that represent Burnsville. So talk to your friends, family, and associates. Make sure they know what's on the ballot this year, how to find that. So a little preview. Tuesday, August 11th, have that date on your calendar. That's primary voting day. Burnsville and Savage will both hold Meet the Candidate interviews in September. Those are virtual, and we do meet the candidates for every race in Burnsville. That's school board, city council, state legislature, all of those. And we post those on our YouTube page so you can get to know the candidates and make your own decisions. CD2 Meet the Candidates, we partner with all of the chambers of commerce in the CD2 arena, and we host an in-person debate that'll be recorded and posted as well. And then we also host a candidate mixer. So Thursday, October 1st, all of our members can come and meet the candidates. Our candidates can come and meet them. It's a very informal, but a great way to chat and get to know each other. And of course, Election Day, Tuesday, November 3rd. And then I'm calling it for today our post-election countywide after hours. Every year we do a joint after hours with the other chambers in Dakota County, and it generally falls the day after the election. So Wednesday, November 4th, I think we'll be back here in Burnsville again for that. So plan to come, and regardless of the outcome, come and join us and toast to the next season. With that, I hope you'll visit the chamber YouTube page. That's where all of these business briefings are posted, as well as that's where you'll find our Meet the Candidates as they come about this fall. And with that, we hold our business briefing the first Friday of every month. We will not hold one in July. It's the day before 4th of July weekend, and we will be taking that one off. But we'll be back in August with our Meet the Chief. We'll meet our new police chief, Matt Smith, and hear about his goals for Burnsville and his leadership. I want to thank you for joining us today.